back in Syracuse, number 22 on the National Register. The second house, Ward designs for Mr. Frank P. Collins at 2201 East Genesee Street. The garage was also designed by Ward. Another bungalow for Bradley A. Fuller, this time located at 225 Salt Springs Road, one of Ward's first commissions in 1920. Like so many Ward houses, it looks much bigger from the back than it does from the front side. 116 Rugby Road for Mr. William P. Hall. In 1920, H.A. Moyer retires at the age of 65. He retires from the actual development, hands-on invention of patents and machines. He still retains his position of president of H.A. Moyer Incorporated. H.A. Moyer could look back over the last 44 years and look over his career. Besides manufacturing carriages and automobiles, Moyer served as a trustee for the Syracuse Savings Bank for 10 years and was the director of the Third National Bank for several years. He even designed the Moyer typewriter. H.A. Moyer also patented Moyer cow salve in a tin, a box for a cow's comfort. Back to the farm, H.A. Moyer would retire too, raising Holstein Friesian prize-winning cows and prize-winning poultry. Here is Moyerdale North on Buckley Road, showing 4,000 baby chicks. Bert Moyer's daughter, Rosamond Moyer, marries William J. Richards in 1920. Also in 1920, Rosamond's brother Edward and his wife Marie Moyer have Ward designed their home at 401 Rugby Road. Here are some original watercolor drawings by Ward. It's unknown whether these houses were built or not by Ward. This at Scottholm Tract Development. This house for Jasper P. Stimson. And this house in Rochester on Clover Road. Job number 210 for Charles Miller at 202 Onondaga Avenue. Job 212 at 116 Dorset Road for James A. Sherman. Back to his own home of Lemoyne Manor, Ward in 1920 adds a cottage, stable, and garage complex. Note the 8-foot-tall birdhouse on top of the structure. In Manlius, Ward builds this house for John Cheney at 103 Academy Road. Job number 218 for Ward is in Liverpool for Frank Miller at 403 2nd Street. Next, 1917 West Colvin Street for Harold H. Clark. Here is Lemoyne Manor, buried under record snowfall. Maud Moyer Ward has been very busy herself during this time, decorating the interior of Lemoyne Manor. Here is the Ward's daughter, Peggy Cheney Ward, in front of Lemoyne Manor with a portion of her pet menagerie. Here's Peggy across the street at H.A. Moyer's with her cats. And
there's the chimney, and then here's the 2 windows that Mom used to.
Right there and there.
Yeah, right, her specifications there. And Mr. Bennett and Mr. O'Neill would work with dateWard, and it's right in here, the windows across. So he had Mr. Bennett, Mr. O'Neill. Of course, when I was a kid, I went sat down under the desk there, And they would have half-moon cookies, and boy, he had it, me, and I sure loved those half-moon cookies.
And then your dad, your mom suggested that they quit bringing lunches.
Yeah, that's it. They also didn't want to bring their lunches for Dad said, no, we're going to have a good meal and have it so everybody can have a good meal.
So instead of them bringing their lunches, they'd make lunch for them.
Yeah, they'd rather do that. And so Mother whipped up a good meal, and that's why they all enjoyed it there.
Do you remember what kind of food they ate?
Oh gosh, I don't mashed potatoes or steak or any of those things. Maybe Mom's apple pie or meringue pie, whatever she made, she'd make those.
She was a good cook.
She was a wonderful
cook. Tell about that wonderful story about H.A. Moyer and the peacocks.
Oh, yes. Well, Grandpa would had peacocks, and every time they would disappear. So somebody stole the peacocks, so they thought they'd bring them back home, so Grandpa always gave them reward for bringing them back.
Yeah, so in other words, they had a deal going where they'd steal the peacocks and bring them back, and H.A. Moyer would reward them every time.
Reward them, yeah.
Okay, with your dad, somebody couldn't pay him, so he took a horse as collateral.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything else you can think about your dad offhand? What his favorite colors were, or food, or
dateWard.
Mm-hmm.
I know gray was one of the gray and his white tie. Those gray suits that I remember him in.
Mm-hmm. Also at Lemoyne Manor, had quite the beautiful gardens, and
dateWard did.
And you would sell flowers.
Yeah, I did. We had rows and rows of peonies and iris, and I would take them to all markets and sell them. And also the Easter lilies, you get so much a piece, and I take them down. So whatever I got. Mom and I divided the money between us. So she said, whatever flowers you can sell, we're going to divide it.
Yeah.
Below was the little skunks would come on, and dateWard would come along and he'd feed the skunks. And then he'd take me over in the wheelbarrow up to the barn to get something at the barn. And boy, I had the best ride, and he rode me around in that wheelbarrow.
Mm-hmm. Now, did he walk around in his bare feet in the garden?
dateWard? I think he did, yes.
Yeah, right. Like to feel the dew between his toes.
Yeah, I could see him working out there.
And we had 7.5 acres, not 5 acres.
7.5 acres, yeah. And they had a lot of fruit trees. Peach and pears and apples, all sorts of fruit there.
I bet it was just beautiful.
Yeah, it was. And then down at the garage there, we had the little duck pound where we had the little ducks that we raised and had. That was fenced in.
Okay, tell about the Moyer car, on your connection to the Moyer car.
Oh, I had my first ride in the Moyer car. George Simpson there. He
lived in the tenant house at Moyer.
He lived in the tenant house and everything, and he says, okay, but he says, I gotta stop and see my girl, bring my girl in. So I was let off at school.
And so he'd take you to school every day in the Moyer car.
Yeah.
Our next question is, when you were a little girl with your little kitty hood bonnet, tell us about that story when on the sleeping porch.
Mother would go out on the sleeping porch with the snow, and her nightgown would be dragging through. So she brought me in. I was just a little shaver, and she put me in bed with dateWard.
To warm up, because you were out on the sleeping porch.
Yeah, that's right.
And you had a little kitty hood.
And the whole thing.
Yeah, and then after you were warmed up, they put you back to bed again.
Back to bed.
Yeah.